When a woman is genuinely interested in being intimate with you, she will always look for subtle ways to bring up your availability or your schedule. She doesn't want to come off as too direct, but she also doesn't want to waste her time if you're constantly busy or unavailable. That's why one of the clearest indicators that she has that type of desire for you is when she starts asking about when you're free, what your week looks like, or how you usually spend your evenings. On the surface, it sounds like casual conversation. She might say, "So what are you doing this weekend?" Or "Do you usually work late?" But underneath those words, she's signaling curiosity about when she can see you in private, when the door is open for intimacy, and when she can align her plans with yours. Most men miss this completely. They treat it like small talk and answer carelessly. But a man who understands attraction realizes that these questions are strategic. A woman who just sees you as a friend doesn't really care about the details of your schedule. She might ask once in a while, but it doesn't carry the same energy. A woman who is attracted and ready to move things forward, however, is intentional about it. She needs to know when you're free, because availability creates opportunity, and opportunity is what makes intimacy possible. The key is not to over-explain yourself when she asks. Many men think they need to justify their schedules or give long-winded explanations about how busy they are. That only kills the spark. The correct way to respond is with calm confidence and simplicity. If she asks what your weekend looks like, you don't need to say, "Well, Friday I might do this, Saturday I'm not sure, but Sunday depends." That shows uncertainty. Instead, a confident man answers in a way that leaves room for her to step in. For example, "Saturday night, I'm free," short, certain, and direct. That communicates that you're in control of your time and that you're open to something happening without sounding desperate or needy. Her asking about your availability is not just about logistics, it's also a test of your frame. If you start acting like you're waiting around for her or rearranging your life instantly just because she asks, she loses attraction. But if you answer with strength, showing that you're busy and purposeful, yet still leave room for her, you've passed the test. She now sees you as a man whose time is valuable, which makes her respect you more and desire you even deeper and deeper. Think about it. Every meaningful connection begins with time. Without knowing when you're free, she can't plan anything with you. So the moment she starts asking these questions, understand what she's really saying. She's not just being curious, she's looking for her opening. That's your signal to remain calm, to stay in your masculine energy, and to respond in a way that makes it clear you're not only available, but you also know how to handle her interest with confidence. And when you can do that consistently, you'll notice something powerful. Women will remember you, they'll pursue you, and they'll make it clear through their questions that they want more than just conversation. One of the most revealing signs that a woman is thinking about intimacy with you is when she starts asking about your living situation. On the surface, it might seem like an innocent question. Do you live alone, or who do you stay with? But the deeper meaning behind it is often much more powerful. Women rarely ask this just out of curiosity. If she's genuinely attracted to you and considering being physical, she wants to know whether privacy is even possible. She's essentially trying to figure out if there's space for intimacy without interruptions, without awkward moments, and without outside eyes watching. This is why you have to pay attention when those kinds of questions come up. When she asks if you live by yourself, she's not only learning about your lifestyle, she's also checking the logistics of whether a future encounter can even happen. If she knows you live alone, that automatically lowers barriers in her mind. It creates a sense of safety, a sense of freedom, and the ability to let things escalate naturally. On the other hand, if you live with roommates or family, she immediately starts calculating what that means. Can she come over without it being weird? Will there be interruptions? Will things feel private enough for her to relax? Here's where a lot of men make mistakes. Some guys get defensive or embarrassed about their living situation. They answer in a way that feels insecure, as if they need to justify it or prove themselves. But when you respond like that, you kill the vibe. A confident man owns his reality. If you live with roommates, say it without hesitation and shift the frame to your leadership. Yeah, I've got roommates, but I still value my own space. If you live alone, state it simply without bragging. Yeah, I've got my own place. What matters isn't just the words, it's the energy. She's testing whether you're confident enough in yourself that your living situation doesn't shake your masculinity. There's also a psychological layer here. When she asks these questions, she's picturing what it might feel like to be in your space. She's mentally putting herself in that environment, trying to see if it feels safe, exciting, or comfortable. That's why the way you describe it matters. If you sound sloppy, uncertain, or like your environment is chaotic, she won't feel drawn to it. But if you communicate composure, order, and calmness when talking about your space, you automatically spark her imagination in a positive way. So don't overlook this moment. A woman who has zero interest in being intimate doesn't really care about your living details. She might ask where you're from or what city you live in, but she won't probe about who you live with and how. The fact that she's asking means she's already evaluating the possibility of something more. And if you stay confident in your response, you've just moved one step closer to being unforgettable in her mind. When you can recognize this signal and handle it with strength, you'll find that women don't just ask once. They'll keep circling back, making sure they know exactly how close they can get to you. Another thing you'll notice when a woman is interested in being physical with you is that she'll start asking about your routines, where you usually go, what you like to do, and how you spend your nights or weekends. This might sound casual, like she's just trying to get to know you, but the truth is she's mapping out opportunities. She wants to know if your lifestyle leaves space for her to step in, and more importantly, if there are natural openings where intimacy can take place without it feeling forced. For example, if she asks, do you usually go out on weekends, or what do you normally do after work? She's not just curious about your hobbies. She's measuring how easy or difficult it would be to align with you. A woman who's only friendly doesn't need to know these details. She's not planning time with you in her mind. But a woman who wants more will ask, because she's actively searching for where she can connect with you one-on-one. Men often miss the importance of this because they answer casually, not realizing what's really happening. But if you understand female psychology, you see her questions for what they are: signals of interest, subtle invitations, and little tests to see how you'll respond. This is your chance to lead the interaction forward. Instead of giving vague answers like, I don't know, just hang out, you give confident responses that leave room for her to join. For example, I usually go to the gym in the evenings, but I like to relax after, or weekends are when I like to try new spots around the city. Those answers show structure, leadership, and a life she can picture herself being a part of. What she's really doing is checking how compatible your routines are with her desires. If your answers make it sound like you're constantly busy, unavailable, or without direction, she won't feel the space to move closer. But if your responses create an image of a man with balance, focused, but also open, it becomes much easier for her to imagine taking things further with you. When you recognize that her curiosity about your routines is not just casual talk, but a window into her interest, you'll see the difference between a woman who's just passing time and a woman who wants to build intimacy. And the man who knows how to respond with confidence will always be the one who stays on her mind. When a woman is genuinely drawn to you and considering intimacy, she won't always come out and say it directly. Instead, she'll create scenarios in conversation where privacy is implied, and she'll do it in a way that feels natural. She might ask questions like, do you usually spend a lot of time at home? Or what do you like to do late at night? On the surface, these sound like harmless curiosities, but underneath, she's setting the stage. She's probing to see if you're someone who values downtime, relaxation, and more importantly, if you're open to the idea of being alone with her in a private setting. Oh, this is a subtle but powerful sign because women are very aware of the environments where intimacy can happen. She knows it can't develop in the middle of a loud group or in constant public spaces, so she looks for ways to confirm if you're the kind of man who creates private opportunities. A woman who asks these types of questions is imagining what it would be like to share that space with you. She asks that question not how. She's painting a picture in her mind, testing whether you're the type of man who can make privacy feel natural, not awkward or forced. How you respond here is critical. If you come across hesitant or you overshare in a way that feels needy, you lose momentum. But if you answer with composure and calmness, you strengthen her attraction. For instance, if she asks what you usually do at night and you say with confidence, I like to unwind, maybe cook something or just enjoy my space, you've subtly opened the door. You've framed yourself as a man who knows how to enjoy solitude. And that paints the image of an environment she could easily step into. What's important to understand is that she's not just checking your habits. She's checking if you have the ability to create moments where connection can grow without distractions. Women value men who naturally guide situations into privacy without making it feel forced because it signals confidence and control. When she asks these questions, it's her way of giving you the opportunity to show her that you know how to handle those moments. The man who recognizes this signal and responds with grounded certainty will always stand out because he's showing her that intimacy with him can unfold smoothly, without pressure, and with complete confidence. Before a woman takes that final step toward intimacy, she wants to feel secure about who she's dealing with. This is where her questions about discretion and maturity come into play. She may not phrase it directly, but she'll find ways to ask things that test how trustworthy you are. For example, she might ask about your past relationships, your circle of friends, or even how you handle personal matters. These aren't random curiosities. They're designed to see if you're the kind of man who can be trusted not to run his mouth, not to gossip, and not to act childish after something private happens between you two. Women know that physical intimacy is powerful and they don't want to give it to a man who's reckless with it. So when she's digging into your personality this way, she's actually looking for signs that you're discreet, confident, and stable. If she hears arrogance, bragging, or immaturity in your responses, her walls will go up immediately. But if you show her that you're calm, collected, and private, that reassurance builds her comfort and makes her feel safe moving closer. This is why your tone and delivery matter just as much as your words. If you get defensive, overshare, or act insecure, she'll feel uneasy. But if you answer with certainty, I don't really talk about personal things with others, I just focus on my life, you've passed her test. You've shown her that you're the kind of man who doesn't need validation from the outside world, and that confidence speaks volumes. It's also worth noting that her interest in your maturity isn't only about today, it's about whether she can see herself trusting you in the future. She doesn't want to take a risk with someone who might embarrass her, expose her, or act unstable if things don't go perfectly. So when she frames these questions, it's her way of confirming that you're not only attractive, but also reliable. The man who understands this dynamic realizes that intimacy isn't just about attraction, it's about trust. And when you show her that you can handle privacy with confidence and maturity, you separate yourself from the majority of men who fail this simple but critical test. When a woman is seriously considering intimacy with you, one of the clearest signs is that she begins asking about your availability, not just in a casual way, but with a focus on when you're free and how much time you can actually give her. She might phrase it as, "Are you busy this weekend?" Or, "When do you usually get off work?" Or even more subtle, "Do you ever get time for yourself?" These questions aren't random. They're her way of figuring out how accessible you are, and more importantly, whether she can carve out time with you that allows things to move forward naturally. A woman who has no interest, doesn't care about your schedule, she might make small talk about your day, but she's not looking for openings. But the woman who is thinking about you in a deeper way pays attention to when she can actually see you. By asking about your availability, she's signaling that she's ready to position herself in your life and is testing how much room you're willing to make for her. It's her way of gauging if she'll be a priority or just an afterthought. The mistake many men make is giving either overly vague answers or acting too available. If you say, "I'm always free," it doesn't build intrigue. It shows a lack of direction and self-priority. On the other hand, if you act dismissive and make it sound like you never have time, she'll assume you're not interested and eventually pull away. The right balance is to show that you're a man with purpose, but also a man who values his time enough to share it selectively. For example, responding with, "I usually stay busy during the week, but I keep my evenings open for things that matter to me," communicates that you're productive, but also willing to prioritize her if she proves herself worthy of your time. This subtle back and forth about availability is more than scheduling. It's a psychological test. She wants to know if she can count on you, if you can create space for her, and if spending time with you feels intentional rather than accidental. The man who handles this well sets himself apart as someone who is grounded, confident, and able to balance ambition with connection. When you show her that your time has value, but you're willing to make room for her in it, she sees you as a man worth pursuing intimacy with, and that impression stays with her long after the conversation ends.